What is up, guys? Aaron here, back again, helping you on your programming journey one day at a time. Okay, I'm liking this format a lot, so I'm going to keep giving you bite-sized tips, more of like a podcast format, and just kind of speaking out of my experience, out of my head about different topics that I wish I knew when I was coming up in the programming world. Today, the topic is tech interviews, specifically programming interviews, and I'm going to cover a few different aspects of programming interviews. First, how are programming interviews different at different kinds of companies, whether it's a startup, a big tech company, or maybe just a company where you're going to be like a web developer on the side, but the main business is over here. Next, what is the structure of the interview? How are these different than like interviews for other kinds of jobs? How many rounds are there? And what can you expect when you're actually on site at the company or even before on site? And finally, what are the success factors that make you look good in programming interviews and give you a better chance of passing them? I'm going to cover all this and more, so make sure you watch till the end to get all the tips. Also, subscribing really helps me out. Even if this video is bad, you never know when I'm going to release a good one on accident. So please help me out. Subscribe. Thank you. For the big tech company, I've not only been a candidate, but I've interviewed close to 20 or more people and accepted or denied them, helped be part of their decisions. So I understand both sides. Now, let's talk about that first, because I think a lot of people want to get into Google, Facebook, or at least that's their goal one day to try to do that. That's definitely a good goal because it motivates you to, learn programming, practice toy problems, and in that process, you'll be a better programmer, whether or not you actually get there in the end. So let's say you did manage to get that first round interview. How to get that is going to be another video, but let's say you did get like a phone screen. You built up your portfolio, maybe got a referral, and you got a phone screen for Google. What does that look like? Well, first you're going to talk to a recruiter. The recruiter is not really technical. I mean, they know a thing or two because they talk to candidates all the time, but they're mainly getting a idea of where you're at. So like different keywords, what is your experience, what kind of stuff have you been working on? And what I would say here is not to lie, but definitely shift the focus onto what you do know and not what you don't know. This is basically just not really a pass or fail interview. Assuming you've gotten to this stage, you're most likely going to get a phone screen. They're just trying to like place you in maybe a different role and make sure the one you applied for is good. So the next round will be, of course, the technical phone screen. The recruiter will schedule this for you, and the person you're going to be interviewing with is probably not going to be on the team you're interviewing for. They're just a random person selected from the company. Unfortunately, if the interviewer decides to give you a really hard question or just grade you poorly, there's not much you can do about it, unfortunately. They try to standardize the process and, train the interviewers up, but sometimes your interviewer is just going to be having a bad day, or maybe they're not a good person. Well, maybe they're a dick, let's put it that way, and they're just going to fail you. So if you get too attached to one interview, then it's probably not going to end up well for you. I'm just going to put that out there. Your technical phone screen's all going to be through a code pair. So it's a coding environment in a browser. The person on the other side can see what you're doing. They can even paste in snippets or little things that'll help you. And then you're going to be typing and they're going to be watching it. And usually this is recorded. If you haven't done coding in this environment before, it feels weird and it feels high pressure for two reasons. First, you don't get the auto completion and the little things that help you. Even sometimes you're not getting the automatic formatting, so that eats up a lot of your time, or at least it can, and it can lead to you actually having to look up common functions and methods that you should know but you don't, just because your editor usually does it for you. In a Google interview, they actually only just give you a Google Doc, which is not even a code editor, so you have to do everything just right there, and you can't just be running your code over and over. They really want to see you pull it out of your head and put it on the paper. But there is a saving grace for the phone screen. A lot of the time, they will give you just a really hard question, and if you're coming in at the lowest level, they don't expect you to do even half of it. They just want to see your thought process, see that you can make a little bit of progress. And so don't feel stressed if it seems way too hard in the beginning, because they just want to see how you work and not necessarily a complete solution. I know this has been said to death if you watched any other programming interview videos, but it really is true. So I want to reiterate it here. Let's say you do manage to get past that technical phone screen, which is probably just going to be a pass-fail. Does he make it through or not? Then you've made it to the on-site, which is actually a huge accomplishment. Most people never even get there. The on-site at a big tech company, well, let's just say it's pretty intense. You're gonna have 5 to 6 rounds all with different people, and you might even have rounds with 2 people in the room. At my company, each round focused on a different competency, which is either programming fundamentals, architecture, coding, or if you have a specialty like front end, it'll be one just focused on front end. This is where the term whiteboarding comes in, especially for the system design questions. They're going to ask you to build something like Twitter. How would you build Twitter? And you have to pick the basically stack you would use, talk about different trade-offs, performance issues, scaling issues. And to study for these, really the best way to go is just to YouTube system design questions and then see someone else explain it, see what things they talk about, and then you can learn from that what you need to kind of go through. The considerations you talk about are generally always the same, although there are some tricky exceptions, but usually those are only an issue when you get to the higher levels of being a software engineer, where they'll try to trick you a little bit and ask you more specific things. But at the low level, they just want to know that you have an idea of how these systems are built at a high level. Another key round you're going to for sure probably maybe have is the algorithms round. For this round, you're going to definitely need to bring up things like time complexity, space complexity, and so on. Generally, this is going to be whiteboarding out a problem too, but be ready to code it on a computer to just see if it runs. Every company is a little bit different in this part. Now you're probably wondering, how many of these rounds do you need to pass to get an offer? The answer is a little bit complicated. If you fail 2 out of 5, but your other 3 were really good, you could make it through. If you pass all but 1, but that 1 is really bad and you really messed up, not only maybe in a programming way, but you said something you shouldn't have, that could totally disqualify you. The best way to explain it is by telling you how these decisions are reached. After your interview, there will be something we call the debrief at my company. It's a meeting between all the people who interviewed you, who have their votes ready, and they'll discuss whether they want to give you an offer or not. The votes are only a heuristic, so they'll come up with the vote in advance, but if you're on the fence for multiple people, they could be swayed by the other people on the panel if you really impress some people. So that's how it works behind the scenes, but you're not going to be on the panel or anything, so really the only thing you can focus on is doing the best you can in each interview, and not only being a good programmer, but being personal, and most importantly, a great communicator, explaining everything you're doing. The more you communicate, the more you might also get hints, and people will empathize with you more if they know what you're thinking. If you just stay silent, people are just gonna not really know where you're coming from, and they could even have a negative perspective on you because you just haven't given them enough to work with or get to know you with. The big tech company interviews are definitely brutal, but if you can make it through, you're pretty much set. You're going to get stock, you're going to get benefits, and one of the best salaries in the world right now, I would say, at least if you're in the US. So it's worth it. It's worth the studying. It's worth pretty much everything, all the pain. Statistically, though, there's a much better chance that you're going to fail on your first try, even if you make it all the way to the on-site. The normal acceptance rate is maybe 1 in 4 for entry-level programmers, so don't be discouraged if you didn't quite study enough, or you were a little bit out of your element, or you just got some hard interviewers. It happens, and for that reason, I want to say don't get too attached, but it's impossible not to be, right? But if you do fail, what happens next? What do you do after that? Let's say Google's your dream company, you didn't get in. Is it over for you? The answer is not at all. Most big tech companies, they just have you wait 3 months, 90 days, and then you can apply again. The really good news is if you were close, you already know a recruiter and they'll be happy to get you in the pipeline again. So you basically get a retry. If you weren't that close, they might ask you to wait a little bit longer, maybe up to 6 months. It really depends how things go. But chances are if you got to the on-site, you were pretty close. And they want you to get better. They want you to get in. So just by doing the first on-site, you're going to learn so much, and you will be able to try again in a pretty short amount of time. This 90-day rule is relatively standard for big tech companies across the industry, and like I said, you can't really put a price on having those relationships within the company, knowing the recruiter, and I would say even if you can find them, add the people who interviewed you on LinkedIn. They might or might not accept. They might think it's a little weird. But in my opinion, reach out, thank them, and then, maybe if they were one of the people who liked you, they'll refer you next time or at least give you some advice on what you could have done better. The few people who I did interview who added me on LinkedIn, I really appreciated it. I thought it was great. So you're not hurting yourself by doing it at all. You're only, helping your future chances and your position within the industry, making connections, of course. All right, I only got through the big tech company just barely, and it's been a while. I mean, unedited, it's been about 20 minutes. It'll probably be chopped down to 10, but I want to talk about the other types of companies in a part 2 video. So if you waited this long and you just don't care about big tech companies, I'm sorry. I promise I'll make it up to you in the next one. But a lot of these principles do still apply for the smaller companies, but the structure is very different. That's the main different thing. So chances are if you're going for your first job, you're going to be interviewing for both of these types of companies, hopefully. And so I think it would be good for you, to watch part 2. If you did watch till the end, I hope you will subscribe and like the video. Leave a comment with any questions you have. I'll try to answer them. At least I'm starting to get a lot of comments, so I'm going to try. And that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you have a great one, and I will catch you soon.